Welcome back to Minimum Rage. We are online again. This is the podcast hosted by two 20-something-year-olds raging on about our past minimum wage jobs. Today we have Jenna Hynek on the podcast today. Jenna, thank you for joining us.
Hi, girls. It's so nice to see you again.
Hi. Yeah. You have
How's
good
your day
lighting. Okay, sorry.
What?
You go first.
I was just complimenting your lighting situation. The lighting is just hitting you so nice.
Thank you so much. We just moved and I claimed the office with the best windows in the whole house. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Smart. I also like your hanger in the back.
Yeah, that comes from my lack of closet space. So I had to make do there.
It's aesthetic. Well, let's start out with how we know you. So you are good friends with Sam, who was on 2 episodes ago. How did you meet Sam?
That's a great question. So Sam and I, when I was a freshman in college, I was looking to join some sort of club group, whatever. Did not want to do sorority life, completely skipped it, and then decided actually that's the only way you can make friends on UNO's campus if you're a girl and you don't want to join some random club. So I joined, or I did one of the recruiting events, and Sam was there. And so we met through our sorority, which is kind of crazy considering both Sam and I's personality. And so we did all of our years in the sorority together. She's a year older than me. And then we ended up working together as interns as well. So we also did that together. But her and I were both in journalism school together. So we had a ton of classes together. So
nice.
Gotcha. And then you came to us because you went to Jocelyn's comedy shows a lot.
Yes, Sam and I were really going through it and just needed to giggle. And we had gone to a show at the Backline like years prior when we were in college, and we were like, we'll just give it a shot again. And so we went, and Jocelyn was there, and Sam and I nearly died at her set. It was so funny. And and that's how we all kind of came to be.
I remember that first night that you guys were there. I do. I remember that I was so nervous because it was I did the showcase at Backline. That was my first time ever doing the showcase, and I did like new stuff, and you guys were just like so nice, and like I was like, all right, maybe I won't quit. Maybe I'll keep going.
No, I remember we were like, we have to tell her how funny she is because we can't let her stop doing this. We have to encourage her to keep going.
I mean, you guys, though, once I got to know both you and Sam, like, you guys are hilarious and clearly have good taste in comedy.
Well, I take that as a major compliment, so thank you.
You're both hilarious. Fiercely funny.
Yes, and you and Sam actually came on an episode of Just Jocelyn. That was one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, that was so fun. That one rocked the boat. I love that episode of Just Jocelyn around.
We did rock the boat, but one thing Sam and I can do is yap, and we just love yapping. And in that episode, we really didn't stop.
That was healing and validating in many different departments of my life.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I had a blast doing that one.
Yeah, that was good. Well, normally how we like to start our podcast is asking you guys what your very first job was, like as a teenager. So what was yours?
Okay, so my very first job was at a local hardware store. I know. It does not fit my vibe. It actually kind of does, like when you kind of think about it a little bit more. So I was just begging for some sort of money as a kid, right? And my dad came up to me and was like, Ace is hiring and I would love that discount. So if you could go apply there, that would be great. And I was 16. I didn't even care. It was right down the street. And so I went and applied, and I was 20 minutes into the interview, and they're like, when can you start?
Not a red flag.
No, not at all. And so, I started working there as a cashier. And then I also worked in the garden center there. But that place, if you need any sort of home improvement advice or help, do not go to Ace Hardware. Those people have no idea what they're talking about. Like, at least from my experience of working there, in like 2018, no one knows anything. Mm-hmm. Most of my coworkers at the time were under some sort of influence at all time.
Really?
Yeah,
it's crazy
for sure. I worked with this old guy, and he would come in on Thursday nights because he had like a real job, and then he worked at the hardware store like in the evenings, and he would come in, and I was a cashier obviously, so he would come through my line and he would be like, "Is it a Pepsi night?" And I would be like, "Hell yeah, it is." And that meant that he would buy 2 Pepsis and put a shot of whatever, like a shooter in one of them, and then he would leave it in the fridge for me, and we would drink during work. And I was 16 or so I was willing to take it from, whoever was around at that time, whoever was offering, alcohol, I was taking it. And looking back on that, that's a horrible decision. He was like a 55-year-old man, and I was 16. But like I said, everyone was doing it. Like, everyone was just hanging out at Ace Hardware, getting drunk on that
Ace Hardware is crazy.
I know. I can't believe how many days I spent. But the thing is it was like one shot and a full Pepsi over 4 hours. So like I would go home with just like a headache at the end of the night.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I remember the store that I worked at like ended up closing, and I remember that guy was like, "Well, why don't we all just get lit?" And at this point, we were all doing this on separate ventures, but we did not know that each other was doing it. So we were like doing it in pairs, but no one knew that each other was doing it. And the manager was like, "Well, we'll probably get in trouble." And I was like, "Who cares? The store is closing." Closing for good. And they were like, "You know what? You're right. Go down to the Walmart neighborhood grocery and go pick up some things, and we'll just hang out here." But yeah, that was my very first job, and it was crazy. It was kind of in like it kind of set up a crazy after job, like the bar was like really low and also really high at the same time leaving that job.
Oh, I feel like I need to start paying attention to the coworkers there and see if.
Well, at this point, they were all like kind of separately owned, but I think now they've all kind of gone to corporate, so I'm sure that like does not fly there anymore. But all of my coworkers were just so wildly inappropriate at all times. Like I never had a moment of peace working in that store. As a 16-year-old girl.
Were you the only 16-year-old working there? Was it just you and?
Yeah, no, it was me and a bunch of old men and like 2 older ladies, and that was it.
That's crazy. I love the idea of just getting, and the one shot had to have been so exciting. I remember like pretending to get drunk off of 1 sip of Mick Ultra, like a shot in a Pepsi bottle. Yeah. I would have been acting loose.
I know. I was acting a fool at the register at all times. Yeah, it was a crazy time. There was always like this one lady who would like come in and she would like give you unsolicited advice, but she looked like she had not showered in days, and she like would pull up in like this truck that was so beat up that it's like, how is that thing still moving? And she would have like the paper ornaments of like butterflies like clipped into her hair when she walked in, and I would just listen to everything she had to say. she would be there for like an hour just talking.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but no, it was a good first job, but it definitely had its moments of craziness. But for the most part, I was just a cashier, and people would like hide things and try to steal them, and I would just look the other way because I was 16 and I was not getting paid enough to care about that.
No.
Did you take advantage of the discount for your dad?
Yeah.
My father was in there constantly. Actually, my mom probably more so, because my mom's a really handy woman, and it was like once a week, I swear, she was just popping in to say hello.
What kind of discount are you getting?
You get a 20% discount at Ace. So, yeah, it does make it worth it. And that to this day is the longest job I've ever had.
That's crazy.
I was there for like 4 years.
Holy crap. That is your life. That is a good chunk of life.
No, it is. It is. Like, it's like most of my teenage years was spent at an Ace Hardware for like 25 hours a week.
Whoa. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you feel like did you know a lot going into it? Like, did they train you? Were you just like going off the cuff, giving advice?
Literally no. I do remember I knew nothing. And I remember one time, one of my coworkers was like, "You want to learn how to cut a key?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Only to find out I was, 16 doing this. You had to be at least like 18 to do it. And everyone was just like, "It's fine. Just like let her do it. Who cares?" Corporate cared. Because they would send in like little sting people into your Ace and see if you're like passing everything. But yeah, so I like knew nothing, and like they all knew that. And I also didn't really care to learn either while I was there.
Yeah. Did you have to deal with angry like dads and chads and brads?
Constantly. They were a frequent flyer of the Ace Hardware, specifically someone who would like say that something was on sale, like the drill, and like it's not, and like I was 16 and horribly depressed, so I was like, whatever, you can just have it. Like, I like did not even care. I was like, go ahead and do that. But it's kind of crazy like looking back and thinking that like my most formative years were like spent in an Ace Hardware. I remember there was this one time I had a high school boyfriend, and things were on the fritz, and he drove to the Ace Hardware and broke into my car and he like wrote a note and like left a bunch of like flowers in there, like apologizing for whatever he did. But I was so angry because I'm not even joking, the week prior my car had actually gotten broken into at the Ace Hardware, and I had everything in my car stolen, like quite literally every item I had in there. I mean, it wasn't much, but like every penny, every phone charger. Wow. Like I remember I had like this t-shirt that it was like, one of your favorite ones, and they took that too. And I like came in there and it was like the Grinch stole Christmas. Like there's literally nothing left in the car. And so when I like got to my car and I saw that the trunk was open, I go, "You've got to be kidding me. It happened again." It turns out I only like gained items from him breaking into my car. But I remember walking back into the store and being like, "You guys aren't going to believe this." And all my coworkers were like, "What a freak." And I was like, "No, totally. What a freak."
Whoa, that's crazy. Did it fix the relationship?
No. We like immediately broke up after that.
That's wild. He could have walked in. He was like, "I'm going to actually re-traumatize her."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm not actually going to go talk to her while she's at work. I'll just leave this cryptid note and a bunch of flowers in the trunk of her car for her to find later." After he already knew that my car had been broken into like the week prior. So I'm like,
what are the odds that was him the first time? And
he was
just trying to apologize.
You know what, Grace? You're so right.
How was it broken into? So he went through the trunk. How was it broken into the first time?
Well, okay, so listen, I was not driving that great of a car. It was pretty easy to break into.
Like the door was unlocked.
Yeah, no, I was driving in high school. So I went to West Side. So like the majority of students there are driving like beautiful cars, like brand new cars. It's a pretty rich school. And I was rolling up in my teal 1997 Buick Skylark. She was teal on the inside and the outside. Cigarette burn holes in her. And at this point of me owning that car, I had rear-ended a Jeep and scrunched the hood of my car. And in order to fix it, my dad just took a sledgehammer and like sledgehammered the hood down and then bungee corded it and told me, "Just don't go on the interstate." Yeah, and it also had no knobs. It had no knobs on it, so I had to carry pliers in my car to turn on every dial, whether it was the heat, the radio, everything required a pair of needle nose pliers. Which is funny because I worked at Ace Hardware, so
right, you could have gotten the supplies.
Had all the access. Whoa.
Yeah.
That character.
No, I firmly believe and will stand by the fact that you have to have a horrible car to really humble you and make you a good person in society.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That was the first car? First car you ever
That was my very first car. I bought it, my dad's a real character. He like found it on Craigslist, and we met someone in and we met some guy in an alley in Benson, and he was like, "This is my grandma's car." And my dad was like, "Sounds good." Just bought it from him, like no questions asked. Like he was like, "Yeah, this is my grandma's car," and my dad was like, "Perfect. How much do you want for it?"
Yeah.
Done. Yeah.
Dude, a Craigslist car specifically. That's where I got my first car. I had a Saturn. I don't know.
Incredible.
Yeah, and it lasted
I'm familiar.
6 months. Yeah.
6 months?
Oh, no. I didn't know how to take care of a car, and so I burned that thing into the ground. And then my dad was like, "You should learn about cars," and I was like, "Teach me." It's like, I don't know how to take care of a Saturn.
No, this car was so bad. Like it was leaking literal antifreeze all over the place. So when I would leave Westside High School, I would have to go out and unbungee cord my scrunched hood of my car and fill it with antifreeze and then put it down and re-strap it in because I literally couldn't make it home without it overheating.
Whoa.
And so, yeah, my car was pretty easy to break into at the time.
I'm trying to visualize what this teal on teal vehicle
is. It's so crazy. Yeah, like the outside is just teal, and then all of the interior seats, like it's like the cloth is all teal. The dashboard was teal. Like everything was teal. And as a 16-year-old, I genuinely fell in love with that car. I was like, no, this is the most beautiful car I've ever seen in my entire life. It also had no AC and no heat either. So we were just bundling up in the winter and we were rolling the windows down in the summer.
Oh, I love that. Sorry, I'm just still imagining you unbunging and rebunging daily to pour antifreeze.
It was like any time the car moved because it was leaking so quickly that anytime the car had to move from one place to the other, and sometimes you would have to stop in your on your way to like pull over and like add more. Yeah, it was.
That's so.
It was a really humbling car, and I have a little sister, and she just had like a 2005 Honda Accord. Like it was a totally normal car and had no issues at all. And I was like, that's why she is the way she is, and this is why I am the way I am.
Mm-hmm. You're better for it.
Better for it.
Okay, so another job you mentioned that you had was a para at an elementary school. I would love to hear about that experience.
I would honestly say that was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my entire life. I actually enjoyed hanging out with the kids so much that I was heartbroken to leave that job. But I got my first real job, and so I had to leave. But no, I love that job. I worked in a first grade classroom that had, I think it was like 4 or 5 kids on behavior plans. So it was kind of an all hands on deck situation. And I feel like that was the job that really made me want to have kids, which is kind of crazy because I was very anti-kid for a while. But, there were some crazy moments where there was a poop situation where poop was popping up around the school and we couldn't figure out who it was coming from. Like it would be like in the music room or like in the gym, and it was like over like a time span of like 3 months where like these random piles were popping up around school, and we had to like do like a full manhunt. Like, and the thing is people thought it was a younger kid because that's kind of a younger kid thing to do. And if I remember right, I'm pretty sure it was one of the slightly older kids, like probably in like 2nd, 3rd grade, who was like doing this? And I remember being like, doing a full investigation, like almost like, you know, we're putting up posters where like who knows information, call the hotline if you have any information about the serial pooper in elementary school. And like there were so many teachers and paras working, we were like, how has no one caught this kid? Like, how has no one like seen him in the act, or her? I can't even remember who it was, but yeah, it was a crazy time.
Or how many?
No, I'm not.
Was the time period of that?
It was like 3 months.
That's
3 months.
insane.
And I mean, it wasn't super often, but it was like once a month over 3 months that we were like doing an investigation internally on what was going on there.
That's wild.
Did you have to notify parents about that?
No, I don't remember actually telling parents at all. I remember we just kind of like kept it to ourselves, because I think the mentality was, if we tell the kids and try to get information from these kids, we might get more poopers on our hands. Like we might have copycats out and about, and we didn't want to have a copycat in this scenario. Oh yeah.
What was the age range you were working with for
it was elementary school, so they had kindergarten. Well, they actually had preschool through sixth grade. But I mainly worked with like first graders and second graders, which I feel like is the most perfect age, because they can like talk to you and they worship you and they don't hate you. You know, once you get a little bit older or a little bit younger, they really can't stand you and would actually rather see you die, I think, than me being there. So yeah, it was great.
Did you have to have like any training beforehand before going into that job, or they were just like figure it out?
Literally not a lick.
Wow, perfect.
Nothing. Wow. I did work in the before and after care for, I think it was like a year and a half before I took the actual para job. So like that's just like after school care where you just, you know, monitor, you know, kids, you know, on the swings after school. But yeah, there was this one girl, I remember I had told her, because she was always jumping off the swing, and, you know, she was not a super coordinated child. And, you know, just giving her a little heads up, like, hey, maybe not, because I'm watching you and I'm extremely worried for you when you jump off the swing. And she had jumped off, and she had basically her knees hit her chin and like bit through her like lip and tongue.
Oh my God.
And I remember being like, I have no training. I am just a college student here. Like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? Like, she's bleeding everywhere. She's freaking out. All the kids are freaking out because they think she's dying. And I'm like, you know, I'm actually 0% qualified to be dealing with this. And, you know, then you have to like deal with parents and be like, well, why weren't you watching her? And I was like, I told her 5 million times to not do this. Yeah. That was a pretty big problem, was, you know, parents thinking that their kids would never do anything wrong. But other than that, I feel like it was a pretty easy breezy job. Like, you just handed out snacks, and we were all up in those snacks as the parents. I remember, but the snacks were always like crazy. Like one of the snacks that was like on the schedule regularly was just like 2 slices of Kraft American cheese.
Oh, wrapped or unwrapped in the plastic, or just
we would unwrap them and put them in like a little Dixie cup, like roll it up in a little.
Yeah, like throw on some crackers or.
That was on the days that we had just went to Costco, but sometimes it was quite literally just 2 slices of American cheese.
Wait, so you, like, the staff had to buy food?
So no, the school would, they would buy it all, but we would all prepare it, which also seems kind of nuts. Like, I don't know, but yeah, we would just like unwrap like 500 literal packages of American cheese throughout the week. And like sometimes you would do that for like a week straight, where like the only snack was like 2 slices of American cheese. And I'm like, that can't be like regulation, right?
That's wild.
But so that was nuts. And then I remember sometimes we would have like hard boiled eggs for the kids as well. And I was like, what kid is just like ripping a hard-boiled egg after school. Like,
See, when I was in high school, I did an after-school program like that too. And the snacks were like mostly on a good day, like just goldfish
yeah,
prepackaged stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree. They had some like out-of-pocket stuff. I'm trying to remember some of the most random stuff, but like it's not coming to me right now. But yeah, some of that stuff, like one day was like just ice cream.
right.
I'm like, sure, it's dairy,
Yeah.
it's a sweet treat, but like some of that stuff was like not okay.
No, like I remember another one was just like 2 Oreos. And it's like they like counted it as like a carb and a dairy. And I'm like, can we really like say that filling is dairy? Like, no, it's an Oreo. It doesn't count.
I worked at a daycare for one day. I quit immediately. And they had a snack cart that they pushed in, and it was different canned vegetables. It was just canned corn, canned green beans, and they're like scooping it into these bowls for these 3-year-olds. And I'm like, who's snacking on canned corn?
Like after you had a hard day and then you're just like
a long day away from
eating
your family, away from home. Here's some corn.
Yeah. No, that was probably the craziest part of that job was just like preparing snack for these kids. And they would go like absolutely feral for like cheese. You're like, oh my God. And when I was a kid, I like so desperately wanted to be part of the after school program. Like I wanted to be in that elite group of kids that got to stay after school and like hang out some more. But like my mom stayed at home, so that was never an option. And I remember one time my mom worked for the school, but she was like, I have an appointment to make, so just go down to aftercare and I'll pick you up. I went to aftercare and she like forgot about me. So I hung out at like aftercare for like hours. Best day of my life in my whole childhood was being in aftercare for that long. I just wanted to be it so badly. And I could never get it.
From working there, I know that you had a serial pooper on your hands, but disciplinary wise, how were you as a disciplinarian? Did that happen? Did you have a repeat offender of bad behavior?
Like I feel like for the discipline, it was like very rare for me where I was like actually disciplining a kid. Like I just felt like when I was a kid, I would not want to be like reprimanded by some chick. Like I was like not listening anyway. So like I knew that these kids probably weren't going to listen. However, there was a time when there was like zero listening skills happening in that room. And we sat all the kids down and we were really letting it rip on them, being like, you're so disrespectful, like whatever. One of the other girls was like yelling at him, and one of the parents actually complained to the aftercare and was like, "They're being really mean to our children." And I was like, "But have you seen your children?
Yeah,
like they're literally monsters." And we did it was like a little bit of trouble, but like not really. But for the most part, it was just like normal kid stuff. So like I don't really remember reprimanding anyone too hard. Except for there was always, kids who were like picking on each other. Like the little girls were really tough. Like
girls are mean.
Oh yeah, like not letting XYZ girl play with other girl because of whatever reason. And it's just like, but sometimes you're like, I get it.
Like, maybe this isn't a vibe. Maybe she doesn't.
Like, you know what? Actually, I do understand exactly what you're saying. I don't like hanging out with her either, actually. But yeah,
Did
there's a couple like that.
Yeah, when you were either in like after school programs, like as a staff, did you have a certain grade that you favored?
Like I said, I always kind of favored like first grade because, like I said, like they would like worship the ground you walked on, but they were also like established enough to like go play on their own. And so like that's why I gravitated more towards them, because like some of the older kids are like, you're not that much older than me, and I'm like, thank you for that. Thank you. I am young and youthful, thank you. But yeah, so that was kind of the grade I gravitated towards.
Any younger, it just gets difficult because they will like you and get clingy, but then you're like, there's other kids in this room that I need to look after, and you'll have like those two like clingers that you just can't get off.
I know. And I remember them like begging their parents to like have me babysit. And I'm like, I would rather die than do that. Like, I don't want to see you outside of this environment, actually. I was never a baby. That's the thing, is I was never a babysitter, but I did like this job. But I think it's because we were like in a structured, like almost like a kid 9 to 5. Like we all say goodbye and like I'll see you tomorrow type. Like they were basically my coworkers at that time.
9 to
5. Yeah.
Boundaries.
That's great. We need boundaries.
Yeah. See, I worked with kids from like birth to 5th grade, and I noticed that the toddlers are like my favorite, but then once you got to preschool, that's when they became like little assholes because they're like the top age, so they think they're super cool. But then when they move to kindergarten, they're the small ones again, and then they're so sweet again.
Yes.
It's like so crazy, these dynamics.
Yeah.
No, totally. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever see a career in education?
No, never. I wanted no part of that. I knew from the jump that I wanted to be in communications. However, I took the job as a para because of the fact that I didn't have to work a weekend and I was done by like 6 o'clock most days in college. So it just worked with my college schedule more than anything. But yeah, and what's funny is I actually worked at the elementary school that my boyfriend Ben went to elementary school in. So, like we were like talking about that and like just how the school has changed since then and all the different stuff like that. But it was sweet. It was a sweet little job.
Yeah.
Can I ask what school that was?
Yeah, it was Sunset Elementary School. It was a West Side elementary school.
Oh.
What was that?
Sorry, you kind of froze.
I was like looking at Grace, like, is it everything or is it just?
Oh no! I like saw my like spin, but yeah, it was Sunset Elementary School. I don't know if you heard that, but
I've never heard of that. It's in Omaha.
It's a West Side Elementary School.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I like. Childcare is not for the weak. I respect that you were able to last, and I genuinely, like I said, I quit after the first day. Also because I think like the lady that was in charge of the specific place I was at, her discipline, it was she was yelling too hard at the kids, and so that's why I'm like, there should be some training, because there are some people who like when they're in that dynamic, it's too much.
No, it's so crazy. I was like allowed to watch children. With like no training, I mean, like they just like trusted me because I was like a young girl. I feel like they were like, how bad can she be? And I'm like, I could be really awful. You don't know that.
Yeah, I feel like in those situations, you learn from your coworkers. Because like nowadays, there's this language you have to use with kids about, like soft parenting.
Yeah.
And being like, you can't say no and stuff like that. And it's like, I mean, every service or like company is different, but it's like it's hard adapting to those certain languages, and then if they don't hear that at home, then the kids are confused, and it's just like I don't know how to do this.
I am 100% anti-soft parenting. I think you should be a little scared of your mom and dad, like on a regular basis. Not like a lot, but like at least a little bit, because when I was a kid, like my mom was the one that was like the scary one. And like, she gives you that look and you just know you got to straighten up. And like, I feel like we're missing a little bit of that in kids nowadays.
You're like, get these babies a teal car. I
know. Put them in a car that doesn't work. That's what we need. We need more kids in horrible first cars.
Oh man.
But yeah, I ended up leaving that job I actually worked this job and another job at the same time. I worked at the horse track in Omaha. Another, like, I feel like all of my jobs are like so out of pocket. People are like, I worked at TJ Maxx, I worked at Target. I was like, no, I worked at a hardware store, and then I worked at the horse track, actually. So I actually applied there to be a marketing intern. And the owner was like, Well, no, you're not going to do that. But you are like cute enough to make enough tips as a, the like a betting cashier. So like, let's just put you in that. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Sounds great. Love that.
Thank you.
So I was like literally, once again, youngest person in the room by like at least 30 years, maybe 20 years if I like remember certain coworkers, right? Like and so they put me in like the high roller type room of the horse track. So like all of the big bettors. And these people are spending $1,000 on a single bet in a single race. Like and like it's so crazy that like that is like actively happening like in our city. And like I was just like a part of it. Like I was just like sitting there, and I was the person who would take the bets and like give them their tickets back, and like I would cash them out and stuff like that. And because I was in like the high roller room, I would bring home like a decent amount of tips because like I was making a decent wage, and then it's all cash. So I would bring home, a couple $100s every time I worked. So it was like really hard to leave that job.
Yeah.
Because I literally just sat and like punched tickets. But one of the hardest things about that job was the fact that you have to do mental math on the fly. So like when you like punch a ticket and they like give you like, say it was like $7.13 and they give you a 20, there's like no computer that like does that for you because the machines are literally so old.
Yeah.
But like you have to do that in your head. And I remember being like, I'm not qualified for this. Yeah. This is above my pay grade. I actually can't handle this job.
Yeah.
And you're responsible for like your, drawer every single night. And if you're short, you have to pay that back. And I can't even tell you the amount of times my drawer was short. Not because of not because I was like, skimming off the top. I was just stupid and like didn't know how to do mental math very well.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did you have a calculator with you?
No, like you just like, it moves so fast that you just like have to do it in your head. And like, most of like the betting sequences, like you'll know, like when you get handed a 20, like, how much you have to give back because it's repetitive amounts all the time. However, like that first like 6 months I was there, I was just like losing money for the company left and right because I was just handing it out to people because I couldn't do mental math with anything. But one of my regulars, allegedly, someone could have been lying to me, was the owner of King Kong. And he would come in and he like only spoke Greek. And so I would have to like listen to him like rattle off this sequence of horses and like the racetrack. Cause at the racetrack, you can bet at multiple different types of racetracks. And I would have to like listen to him and I would have to like, I was like lip reading. I was like, what is he saying? I actually have no idea what he's saying right now because he's so Greek that you can't hear a single thing he's saying and you can't comprehend it. But he was spending big bucks at the horse track if my coworkers weren't lying to me about who that was, because that's also a possibility because they were a bunch of liars all the time.
Do you feel comfortable saying the name of the horse track?
Yeah, it's Horseman's Park.
I've wanted to go see a race so bad.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go when I had a friend in town.
Omaha.
I never made it. In Omaha?
Yeah, there's only one in Omaha, and they only do live races like a couple of weekends a year. But yeah, and like, I would, whenever I was like short on my drawer, it would just come out of my paycheck, and I was like, whatever. It's fine. Yeah.
That seems so intense. Did you have people like getting mad at you about like I feel like the customer service there had to have been like terrible to deal with.
Well, no, it was so bad because it's like most of these people, I mean, I obviously worked on like the general floor sometimes too.
Yeah.
And the general floor is like incredibly sad because it's like most people like they should not be there. Like they don't have the funds to like be there. So they're betting a dime on a race, hoping to like hit it and win because a dime is all they had. Like that was kind of the vibe of like the general floor a lot of the time. But those were the people who were yelling at you the most.
Really?
Yeah, like I feel like when I was in like the high roller table area, those people had so much money that like if I screwed up, like if I like punched in the wrong things and they didn't check it, yeah, they would be irritated and annoyed, but they'd probably just like not go to me for a couple days and then like come back. You know, it wasn't that big of a deal because they had so much money. But it was always the people who had like very minimal funds who would just tear you apart on the floor. There was this guy and he didn't speak English very well. And he was also a frequenter of my desk. And like, mind you, I was getting the oldest, creepiest people in the joint to come to me because everyone else working was either a man or in their 60s, if there were a woman. So I was, again, a hot commodity around that joint. And they would call him, gosh, I can't, what was it called? They had a nickname for him, but it was basically like yap yap or something like that because he would always talk and no one knew what he said was saying because he had no teeth. And he also didn't speak English very well. So like we had absolutely no idea what he wanted. But if you didn't type in exactly what he wanted, he would come back to you and yell at you with no teeth in whatever language he was speaking for like 10 minutes. And I remember one day, like we were taught to like just like let them yell at you and then they'll eventually like walk away, right? Like that was the vibe. But I remember one day, like I was just like, get away from me. I actually hate working for you all the time. So you should just pack it up and leave. And he looked at me like so stunned and was like, all right. And then just like kept coming to me for the rest of the night. Like he just like needed me to yell at him back. And yeah, we never had a problem after that. But there were so many times where like, you know, they always say like you need to get to the window. You have to get to the window before the race takes off, obviously. Mm-hmm. And these people would wait until the very last minute and then we would miss it. And then they would yell at me for that. Like, and I would be like, get up here quicker, put on the tennies and get here quicker. Like, you know what time the race starts. Yep. I get a watch, get looking because this is not my problem. Yeah, we would get pretty sassy with each other. But yeah, some of the people I worked with, I'm not even joking, were 90 years old doing this job.
Wow.
Because you just sit and you punch tickets. But like, it was also bad because like they couldn't hear at all. And so they were punching the wrong things all the time and just getting yelled at. But they also can't hear themselves being yelled at. So they were just like, whatever. Like, yeah, that was a crazy operation. And then they would have like live racing days where, you know, they would actually have the horses on site running. And I would just make so much money doing that. And like some days I like actively miss it because it was really easy, but like it was also just the environment was bananas all the time.
Yeah. Did you ever get to go hang out with the horses or at least say hi?
No. There's only horses there like once a year, but no, that was like also added to like the sad part of working there was like, you're just like making money for other racetracks, like 99% of the time. And like, it was like dead all the time, unless it was like Kentucky Derby or like the live racing days. But you know, that's just, I guess, how it crumbles.
Man, you're like you were low key selling me on it. I was like, I want to work there now. I used to punch Keno for a while, so I'm like, dude, if I can punch Keno, I can do
the same thing, just on live animals. Well, I think it would actually be fun to work there again now because they're adding the casino to it.
Oh, sure.
So it's probably going to be pretty popular when they reopen all of that. And like, it was just, my coworkers were just old. And that's like my favorite demographic. I know how to charm an elderly man all day long. Like, that's my sweet spot of humans, is like an old man.
Do you think there is a certain pattern or strategy when it comes to betting on horses? Did you learn any of that?
So I would also like to circle back to the fact that my dad is also the one who told me to take this job because he is also a huge gambler. And so when I was like a kid, he would take me to the horse track with him, and he would like teach me all these strategies on how to bet on horses. And I was like 8. And I was like, got it. Clock. Like, write that down. I'll save that for like when I'm older. But the answer is no. Like, it's a live animal, and like, you know, they say that you can like calculate it, and like there's all this different like odds and math and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it's a horse. Like, they're gonna do whatever they want. And like, if they don't want to run that day, they're not gonna. Like, that's just how it is. So people will probably tell you yeah, but I would probably say no. It's a big sham.
That is so fascinating. What was like the last straw? What were you like? Was it just like time to move on, or did you have like a final thing where you're like, I'm done with this, I'm not doing this anymore?
I would say I don't think I really had like a final straw with them. I was just like really sick of like just sitting there for hours on a Saturday, and like, you know, most of the time it's fairly dead in there, and like just like really twiddling my thumbs around. And when I was working there, it was kind of like towards the end of my college years. So like I was gearing up to like find an internship, and like, you know, I was just sick of working on the weekends, honestly, because my whole goal in life was to never work again. So I was trying to, you know, get a job as quickly as possible so I could retire and quit working as soon as possible. Like, my mentality at 18 is like, I gotta retire soon.
I gotta get out.
I think that's the end goal for everyone. Just retire early.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait to be retired right now.
Yeah. People are like, what's your dream job? None.
Nothing.
Answer's none. I would rather absolutely do nothing for the rest of my life than work another day.
Correct. Well, on that note.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on our podcast and hanging out. Do you have any socials you wanted to share?
I do have my photography Instagram. It's that's also kind of a funny little job. I started taking photos in college because I was a broke college student and I wanted to go to concerts for free. Mm-hmm. So I taught myself how to do photography. Amazing. And it's taken some crazy avenues as well. What kind of photography? I do all concerts for the most part, and like events. Really? Yeah. So one of my first gigs I ever did was on Halloween, and it was like a screamo concert. And I remember I was there by myself, literally like first or second show I've ever done, and I got bumped in the back, and I like turned around and I took a Doc Martin to the face because someone was crowd surfing.
Yeah.
And the crowd was so tight that I couldn't leave. So I was just like straight free bleeding on myself, and like also just like taking pictures the whole time. And and it was one of the greatest moments of my life. And then I started working for Maha, and I've gotten to take pictures of some really cool people. But yeah, you can find me at jmhynek.photos on Instagram.
That's super cool. I definitely would be stalking that page.
I stalk it pretty regularly.
Wait, I do have a question. So to photograph events like that, do you have to have some sort of like portfolio to show event coordinators?
So when I first started, I would just say, hey, I'll do this for free just as long as I get in. And then that started the whole my portfolio, and then I would show some of that stuff. And then I wanted to be Maha's intern, but my friend actually got that job. And then they needed more photographers that year. And I joined in 2018, and I got to take pictures of Weezer, Life Made. And then I've been on staff with them ever since. And so for the most part, all of those event coordinators will just search for local talent, and then they'll just DM you or send you an email and be like, hey, are you free? The last inquiry I got was actually the night of the tornado. They were like, hey, do you want to come to this like Mona Chaperone dance party and take pictures? And I was like, yes, but there's an active tornado, so no. I can't.
Where was the Muna Chaperone dance party? Because I did not hear anything about this.
It was at the slowdown. Yeah.
I heard about that.
And trust me, I was devastated by the fact that a tornado was ripping through our city because I wanted to go so bad.
Whoa. Me and Lauren would have loved that. Oh, damn. Okay. Maybe I hope they do it again because
yeah, cool. No. But yeah, it's a fun little side gig, but yeah.
We love a side hustle.
Yes.
You gotta have them in this economy.
You do.
Yeah, for real. Okay, well, thank you again.
Yeah, of course. Anything for you all. I am obsessed with you guys.
I'm obsessed with you. Jenna, you're funny.
No, you're funny.